The Witch's Curse. Nyala's presence in the village was both a blessing and a mystery. From a tender age, she possessed a power that surpassed understanding, a power that could bend reality itself. When her emotions flared and anger surged within her, the very fabric of reality seemed to respond to her words. Whatever she proclaimed would come to pass, leaving her parents bewildered and the villagers unsettled. One fateful day, while engaged in playful banter with the village boys, a mishap occurred. In the heat of the moment, a stray kick landed upon Nyala, accidentally causing her pain. Filled with a mix of frustration and anger, Nyala's words carried an unintended consequence. "I wish your leg would bend," she uttered in the heat of the moment. To the village's astonishment, the following morning revealed a startling reality. The boy who had inadvertently caused her pain woke to find his leg twisted and crooked, as if responding to Nyala's uttered wish. It was a remarkable and unsettling sight, leaving the villagers awestruck and questioning the boundaries of Nyala's powers. On a scorching day, when the sun's relentless heat parched the earth and weary villagers sought respite, Nyala, yearning for relief, uttered her words with conviction. "I wish it would rain," she said, her voice carrying a silent command. To the astonishment of all, dark clouds gathered, blocking the intense rays of the sun. The skies grew heavy with moisture, and raindrops fell, bringing much-needed relief to the parched land. The villagers stood in awe, witnessing the rain fall as if in response to Nyala's desire. These extraordinary manifestations of Nyala's power both fascinated and frightened the villagers. They marveled at her ability to shape reality with mere words, yet the unknown nature of her gift stoked apprehension and uncertainty within their hearts. Throughout generations, the village had witnessed the emergence of young souls, blessed with extraordinary talents that marked them as chosen ones. They were seen as vessels of ancient wisdom, destined to become the guardians of tradition and the healers of their people. But there was something different about Nyala. While the other gifted children had been guided through a deliberate and patient process of honing their craft, her abilities seemed to possess an untamed energy, a darkness that danced on the edges of her power. As she grew older, whispers echoed through the village, rumors that spoke of witchcraft and sorcery. These rumors took hold, spreading like wildfire through the minds of the fearful and the ignorant. Nyala became an outcast in her own community. Fearful glances were cast her way, and doors that once opened wide to embrace her now shut firmly in her face. The elders, torn between their duty to protect the village and their desire to nurture the potential within their youth, found themselves at a crossroads. Thus, a decision was reached that would cast Nyala into a world of shadows. They condemned her to a life of exile, confined to the caves that concealed mysteries and whispered ancient secrets. In the depths of the caves, surrounded by the embrace of darkness, Nyala vowed to embrace her power, to nurture it and unlock its true potential. Alone but not defeated, she delved into the hidden wisdom of the ancients, seeking knowledge and guidance. Many years passed. One morning, Chief Osei called for an urgent meeting with the Council of Elders, sensing the growing restlessness and desperation within the village. The villagers had endured years of drought, their fields barren and their hopes dwindling. It was time to confront the reality of their plight and explore unconventional possibilities. Gathered beneath the shade of the ancient baobab tree, Chief Osei looked into the eyes of the council members, each bearing the weight of their responsibilities etched upon their faces. He cleared his throat, his voice carrying a mixture of determination and concern. "Esteemed elders," Chief Osei began, his tone commanding attention. "Our village thrives on the surface, but we all know the truth that lies beneath. It has been years since rain has graced our lands, and our people suffer the consequences. Our fields yield but meager harvests, and hunger threatens to consume us." A solemn silence enveloped the gathering as the elders exchanged glances, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Chief Osei continued, his voice filled with a sense of urgency. "Our traditional healer has performed countless rain-making ceremonies, offering sacrifices and prayers to the gods. But alas, our efforts have been in vain. Our resources have been depleted, and the heavens remain closed to us." Elder Nia, her brow furrowed with worry, raised her hand to speak. "Chief Osei, we have tried everything within our means. Our people grow restless, and the burden of their hunger weighs heavily upon their souls. What more can we do?" Chief Osei nodded in understanding, his gaze sweeping across the council members. "Elder Nia, I share your concerns. We have exhausted our knowledge and resources, and yet the rains elude us. But in the depths of my memory, a glimmer of hope has emerged." The council members leaned forward, their interest piqued by the chief's words. There was a girl, Chief Osei continued, a girl with extraordinary powers. She possessed the ability to make things happen with her words. I remember her well, for she once uttered a wish that twisted a village boy's leg, leaving me no doubt of her power. Elder Sani's eyes widened with surprise. Chief Osei, are you suggesting that we seek out this girl? Is it possible that her powers could bring rain to our parched lands? Chief Osei nodded, his expression determined. Indeed, Elder Sani. I believe it is worth exploring. The girl was banished long ago, her powers feared and misunderstood. But desperate times call for desperate measures. We cannot let our fears blind us to the potential solution she may hold. Elder Amina's voice carried a note of caution. Chief Osei, we must also consider the consequences of seeking out this banished girl, this witch, as some may call her. Her powers, though extraordinary, could bring unforeseen dangers and upheaval to our village. Are we willing to risk everything for a chance at rain? The chief nodded, acknowledging the valid concern. Elder Nia, with a mixture of desperation and determination, raised her voice. Chief Osei, our options are dwindling. Our people starve, and despair clouds their spirits. We cannot ignore the possibility that this witch, banished though she may be, holds the key to our salvation. We must at least try, for the sake of our village's survival. Nyala was summoned, and stood before the council. The villagers, having not seen her in years, were captivated by her presence. She had blossomed into a vision of beauty. As Chief Osei recounted the village's plight and their desperate need for rain, Nyala listened attentively, her expression guarded. When the chief finished, there was a tense silence before Nyala finally spoke, her voice laced with a hint of bitterness. Why should I help you? She asked, her words cutting through the air like a sharpened blade. After banishing me, casting me out like a pariah, why should I care for the well-being of a village that treated me so poorly? The council members shifted uncomfortably, their heads bowed in shame. Elder Nia, finding her voice, stepped forward and spoke with genuine remorse. Nyala, we acknowledge the injustice we inflicted upon you. We were blinded by fear and ignorance. But desperation has opened our eyes, and we now realize the grave mistake we made. Please, we beg for your forgiveness and your assistance. Nyala's gaze softened, though skepticism still lingered in her eyes. You ask much of me, she said, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and determination. But if you are sincere in your plea, then I have 3 requests that must be fulfilled before I consider aiding your village. The council members exchanged glances. Chief Osei stepped forward and nodded, giving her his assurance that they would do everything within their power to meet her demands. First, Nyala began, her voice steady. I request that I be fully integrated back into the community. I will not be an outcast any longer. Acknowledge my presence, and allow me to reclaim my rightful place among you. Chief Osei and the council members nodded in agreement. Secondly, Nyala continued, her voice unwavering, I ask that the land belonging to my late parents be returned to me. It is my birthright, and it holds sentimental value that cannot be replaced. Grant me this, and I shall consider it a step towards reconciliation. Elder Amina, touched by Nyala's words, spoke with a voice filled with compassion. Nyala, we offer our sincerest apologies for the loss of your parents and the pain you have endured. We shall honor your request and return your family's land to you. Lastly, Nyala's voice grew stronger, her eyes burning with determination. I demand the freedom to practice my healing arts openly and without restraint. It is a part of my being, and denying me the right to share my knowledge and gifts would be an injustice against the very essence of who I am. The council members exchanged hesitant glances, but agreed to the terms, driven by their desperate need for Nyala's help. Nyala wasted no time in taking action. She ordered a cow to be brought to her, a symbol of sacrifice and unity. With a select group of elders by her side, they ascended the sacred mountain. As they reached the mountaintop, Nyala raised her hands, her voice resonating with an ancient power. She chanted ancient incantations, calling upon the forces of nature to heed her plea. The air grew thick with an electric energy, and the sky responded to her command. Dark clouds gathered, swirling above the mountain peaks. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain. The elders watched in awe as droplets began to fall, at first gentle and then with an increasing intensity. The rain poured down, drenching the parched earth, reviving the dormant life. The rivers, once mere trickles, swelled with newfound vigor. The villagers, witnessing this miracle unfold, could hardly contain their joy. Tears mingled with the raindrops as they realized that their village had been granted a second chance. The news spread like wildfire through the community, and the villagers emerged from their homes, their faces uplifted, embracing the downpour with open arms. Laughter and jubilation filled the air as they danced in the rain, celebrating the return of abundance and hope. Nyala stood at the mountaintop, her eyes closed, feeling the raindrops cascade down her face. The weight of her powers, once a burden, now transformed into a source of redemption and healing. She had delivered on her promise. Now it was the village's turn to deliver theirs. Months later, Nyala confronted Chief Osei in the fading light of the setting sun. The chief, startled by her presence, avoided her gaze, his guilt evident in his posture. Nyala's voice trembled with a mix of hurt and anger. "Chief Osei, why have I been left waiting in solitude all these months? You promised to integrate me back into the community, to restore my place among the villagers. What is the meaning of this betrayal?" The chief sighed heavily, his voice filled with regret. "Nyala, please understand that it was not my intention to deceive you. When you disappeared into the caves, the villagers began to express concerns about your powers. They feared that you were too powerful, that your return could bring harm and destruction upon us all. They came to me, pleading for your exclusion for the sake of our safety." Nyala's eyes narrowed, a mix of disappointment and fury burning within them. "So you deemed me a threat? You allowed their fears and ignorance to dictate my fate. Is this the gratitude I receive for saving your village from drought?" The chief's voice wavered with a hint of remorse. "I was torn, Nyala. I wanted to keep my promise to you, but the weight of the villagers' worries pressed heavily upon me. I thought it was for the greater good, to ensure our survival." Nyala's anger bubbled to the surface, her voice filled with a bitter edge. "You speak of survival, yet you cast me aside like an outcast. Well, Chief Osei, if the villagers believe me to be a curse upon this land, then so be it. Let them experience the full extent of my powers, for I shall grant them their blessing turned curse." With a final glare, Nyala turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving the chief standing in the gathering darkness, his heart heavy with regret. Days turned into weeks, and the villagers laughed at the notion of being cursed by rain, dismissing Nyala's anger as foolishness. But soon, their laughter turned to despair as the rain fell incessantly, day after day, transforming their once fertile land into a waterlogged wasteland. The underground caves filled to capacity, unable to contain the deluge. The river swelled beyond its banks, devouring homes and crops in its relentless advance. Village life ground to a halt as the waters consumed everything in their path. The laughter turned to cries of anguish and desperation as the villagers sought refuge in neighboring kingdoms, their lives upturned, their homes abandoned. They became strangers in a foreign land, bearing the weight of their misguided actions and the consequences of their betrayal. Nyala, having moved on from her dwelling, observed from afar, a mix of sadness and vindication in her eyes. As the rain continued to pour, Nyala ventured to new lands, her knowledge and healing art sought after by those who recognized her abilities. And though the villagers paid a heavy price for their treachery, the curse served as a lasting reminder of the consequences that befall those who cast aside the very ones who hold the power to save them. Thank you for watching our story, The Witch's Curse, and we hope you enjoyed it. Do you think Nyala was a witch? Or just a gifted child? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of the tribe. Thank you for watching The Tales of the Savannah. We will see you next time, in the Savannah.